So there was a property that was listed in Mesa and 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, or I'm sorry, 3-car garage. And it was listed at 260 over the weekend. And it was on an auction site. And I have a client, he was looking, he was all excited. And I said, it's not going to go for 260, right? So I pulled up the site, and within 20, 30 minutes, it was already over 315. He's like, dang it, right? So I pulled up last night and I screenshotted and sent him a picture, and I said, okay, the bid's at like 405. That's the final bid, is what it went for. He's like, what the heck? And I go, well, it should never have listed at 260. That was the game they played. They did that on purpose. So, if you were actually running a CMA, they should have listed what it was worth, but they did that on purpose. So, they got anticipation, they got leads, they got, whatever they wanted to do. In this market, you don't need to do that. There's no need for it. But I am gonna, let me share my screen. So we all know that to get a property, don't write a letter, number one. And if you're the listing agent, do not accept a letter. Shouldn't be there. The first thing is write a good purchase price, right? That would be a first negotiation test, is to have a good offer, hopefully. Your second one could be the earnest money. The seller does not get that earnest money unless you breach the contract. That's just not theirs. They think it's theirs. So some sellers and listing agents think that if your earnest money is high, that they may get into contract with a buyer with higher earnest money. So that is a positive. It also depends on how much money your buyer has in their bank account. Not everyone has a lot of money. So this is going to depend on your clients, okay, for negotiation tactics. The second piece down here is their down payment. If they have a large down payment, that looks good. And down payment could be, if it's a down payment assistance program, if whatever you're using for down payment, or even loan programs, those are good tactics. Earnest money is interesting because that's the buyers. How you want to write it up, if you want to use it towards their down payment, their closing costs. If you and your clients are confident, you could write it in the contract that earnest money goes hard after your inspection and appraisal contingencies. So that means after all, and your CC&R contingencies. So after all your contingencies have met, your earnest money goes hard. So that guarantees to the seller that you're not backing out. And if you do, they're going to get that money. Another negotiation tactic is your close of escrow date right here. But you've got to talk to your lender to find out how quickly can you close. Is there an HOA? And also we run into now those liens with title. So be careful when you're wanting to do a quick close. Also, if the seller's living in the house, a quick close could be ideal, but another option could be allowing a post-possession. So the seller can close, but allow them to stay in the house. So you'd write that up. I'm going to scroll in here quick. In your terms here, these additional terms, this is where you would state post-possession agreement to follow after your inspection time frame. So that way we all know that something should be written in there to follow. And it could say that post-possession at no charge. And for how long? Maybe 14 days or 30 days. And sometimes on the MLS Plano, the listing agent will actually state what the seller needs. You know, if they have, if they need to find a house, if they have a house that's being built, what's their time frame. So when you're writing the offer, if you can get a hold of the listing agent and say, hey, how quickly does the seller need to close? We can close, but how quickly can they move out of the house? That's a separate question. How much time do they need in that house?
Augie, come on.
Lisa must be on.
Sorry.
Negotiation.
I'm having issues. Sorry.
You're fine. Negotiation tactics are so asking for things in the house that costs the seller money. So as much as it's, you know, it'd be nice to get appliances or other items, you know, right here, additional items, maybe you don't ask for those things. Or if your clients need these things, you can maybe up your price a little bit. So those are some of the other negotiation tactics, is increase your price. When we had buyers and the buyers needed closing costs paid for by the seller, if you needed a full 3%, we would increase our purchase price by 3% to offset what closing costs we would need. Right now, we're afraid to ask for anything on the buyer side because that's not there. But a couple years ago, that's what we would do. If you needed 1%, 2%, or just a flat fee, that's what we would do. You would increase your purchase price by that amount just to offset some of the proceeds. Which, I mean, if you have a VA loan and there's VA fees in here that the seller has to pay for, you may want to offer some of that in your purchase price. That's always an option. So title and escrow, we can get into here. Sorry, the allergies are affecting my voice really bad. Title and escrow, this is really interesting. So I'm going to just scroll down super quick into, well, in that extra conditions line items, you can offer to pay the seller's closing costs. So that is an option. You can offer to pay their HOA fees. So their any capital improvement, any HOA transfer fees, anything that the seller's going to run into that's going to outlay them funds. If you stop and think about the net proceeds sheet, anything that's going to cost them money, you could offer to pay for that. It keeps your loan down because you're outlaying those expenses at closing. The inspection period here, line 213, if you guys can see that, it's 10 days or, depending on the response times and how many inspectors you have on hand in your pocket, you should be able to get an inspector out there. So this is a really good negotiation tool. How quickly you can get your inspector out there. Change this date. Get your inspection period down to 5 days. I I don't think I would go any less. Just because you need to get earnest money in, and you need time to respond. But this is huge because this guarantees the seller, if you're going to cancel, they can go back on the market. So this is a really good negotiation piece. If the property, you guys feel that it's okay, you can actually do away with this. Not my advice, but buyers are doing that also. They would sign the binder off that they're waiving their rights, but they're willing to make an offer that they're not going to do an inspection and they're going to buy the property as is. That is a negotiation piece. And only VA loans require a termite inspection and a clean termite report. So that is a negotiation piece that would sellers look at? Of course, because you don't have to worry about a buyer canceling during the inspection period or asking for any repairs. Like, I'm dealing with that right now with a buyer and a seller, and it's costly and it's stressful. So this right here is just a nightmare. Oh, where'd it go? Same thing if there's septic or sewer. Septic, if you're asking, or water well, if you're asking for that information from the seller, the buyer can pay for those things. So septic has to get pumped and certified before closing in order to close in Arizona. So the buyer can pay for that. Home warranty. We used to ask the sellers to pay for home warranties. No one is doing that anymore. The buyer can buy one themselves, but again, it depends on how much money the buyer has. A buyer can pay and pick up a home warranty at any time. You can pick one up whenever. So why they make this a part of the purchase contract, I'm not sure. The additional terms and conditions, this is really where you would want to list out anything that you're going to, if there's a post possession that's going to follow, if you're going to be as is, but really, if you're as is, that doesn't mean you're not going to cancel during the inspection period. You don't really want to rewrite the purchase contract because we're not attorneys. So this really should be left blank. I did get an offer on one of my listings, and it was interesting because one of the buyers offered to pay for the seller to move. So that was a negotiation tactic I had not seen yet before. And that was pay for movers. So although they threw a number out there, but I just hadn't seen that one yet. That was very different. So response times right now, like the minute you write a response time in there and they don't respond, your offer expires. So think before you write a date and time in there. Sometimes I won't even put when in there, just because I don't want our offer to expire, because then they have to counter. So to extend that, and I really don't want them to counter. It's however I can write the best offer and just get it over there. And if that means I'm writing with their title and escrow officer, that's what I'm doing, because that's going to make that listing agent happy. And it's all about getting under contract and getting that property and just making my clients happy. waiver of appraisal shortfall, couple different things. So waiving the appraisal, either you're waiving it completely, so you're taking a chance that you're confident it's going to come in where your offer is at, that or the buyer's got tons of money. The appraisal shortfall means that the buyer is willing to pay an extra amount of money over the appraised value. So it kind of saves the buyer a little bit. If the appraisal comes in at a certain price, then the seller knows they're still going to get a little extra money, and it's not going to get out of hand, like completely waiving the appraisal. So these are good negotiation tactics. It's really hard to compete against cash, period. And if you can't waive the appraisal or do an appraisal shortfall, these are hard to compete against. So, I mean, you can do the best that you can with your client. In the end, this is really what's going to help win the offers. And when I'm looking at it, it's the purchase price and the appraisal shortfall. How high are the buyers willing to go? And we also reach out to the lenders, like how solid is the client? Where are they at with their loan docs? And how serious are they? Lisa, can you think of anything else? Be quiet.
Sorry, I couldn't find my button.
I'm trying to think of anything else.
I mean, not particular in the contract. I mean, then you've got your waivers and your shortfalls and the additional clause addendum.
Yeah, I went through that. Do you guys have questions? You guys are quiet too.
So I have a question, Maura.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about the inspection period?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't the bank require an inspection?
No.
Okay.
No, and in fact, the lenders don't get copies of that. They have no idea what's going on. The appraisers will go in there. So even if you waive your appraisal, there's still an appraisal. Unless the buyer is putting so much money down, then the lender will decide if there's an appraisal or not. They might be able to just decide if they're putting X amount of money down, there might not require an appraisal. But the appraiser will go in there and decide if the home is fit or not. And then they may have conditions. But working with the sellers that's what is anything you can find out. So trying to get, listen, the listing agents' phones are blowing up. So getting them on the phone is hard. So texting them is key if you can get them to respond via email, but most of the time they'll respond via text. And that's how it'll happen. So you want to ask them, like, what is the seller looking for? Like, is it a quick close? How long are they looking for a post possession? And how much money? What are they looking for? Like, I always ask, what's their highest offer? How high? Like, I straight up ask, see if they'll tell me the information. And I mean, you can play with the earnest money, but it's not the seller's, but it always makes you look good. Same with the down payment.
Another thing I do, sorry. Another thing I do is, we are having issues right now. The other thing, you don't shut up, I'm gonna beat the snot out of you. The other thing I do is I'll like get proof of funds from my buyer, like for the down payment, and send that along too, just to
Oh,
prove
yeah.
that they've got plenty of cash, like so that the buyer doesn't have to worry. Like if we're doing a shortfall or waiving appraisal and showing we've got plenty of funds, just to kind of make it look stronger and that they know that that is the case.
Yeah,
And
I
then
forgot about that.
Terry was asking about escalation clauses. Yes, it's okay to put it in the additional terms and comments. I wish they would add that to the additional clause addendum as well, because everyone's writing their own language and that makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Some people do it really well and some don't. So, and I'm just talking in general because I see
Yeah.
it coming from other offices. I'm not talking about our office. I'm talking about like agents at other offices. And I have found personally, like lately, agents are telling me no escalation clauses, just
Yeah.
write your highest and best. They're getting tired because they get so many offers of doing all the math and trying to figure out what's what with
Yeah.
concessions and everything. So I have found that I'm starting to be told no escalation clauses, but you can
Yeah.
still write them.
I think with the appraisals and the appraisal shortfalls, the agents are pretty much not doing the escalation clauses. It's kind of like, what's the point? Because, you can write a high price. You can write a high price, but if you're not willing to own up to it when the appraisal comes, then it doesn't matter. So if a house is listed at 350 and I write it for 600,000, it doesn't matter. If I'm not going to throw money into the pot to back up the appraisal, then why would they even look at my offer? So it has nothing to do with an escalation clause or the amount. If I don't have the rest of the money or the docs to back up how high we go. So it's important that you run comps to see where are they listed at, where are the comps at, and look at the tax records, because there's a lot of properties that sell without agents. And that's why you've got to look, even though there's appraisers that will look at the comps without, there's appraisers that will, and there's appraisers that won't use comps that have sold without an agent, and there's some that won't use them. So it's a hit or miss, but you've got to know what's going on in that area. So I always use monsoon because you just never know if the property is going to appraise or not. And if your clients are getting high in their offer, you've got to show them numbers and just say, hey, this is what we can see. I mean, you're all adults, so you can make decisions, but this is what I'm telling you. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think on one of my listings, I got an escalation clause, but it was really pointless. It was, it didn't mean anything because the other offers that came in that were so high, and then it didn't matter, so. Do you guys have other questions?
This was really great, Mara. Thank you so much for doing this.
How long can you make okay, so this is a good question, Nick. So a post possession can be how long you and the seller agree, but Lisa Fisher's come down to like, really a post possession should be on a post possession doc less than 30 days. If it's more than that, then you're talking, you can do a post possession, but it's on a lease paperwork. So you've got to be careful with that. it can still be considered a post possession, but it's just the certain paperwork that you're using. And they need to sign paperwork. That way everyone's protected, because both parties have to have insurance. Both parties need to be protected because everyone's living there. And that's what's scary. Everyone's worried about so-and-so damaging the other person's house. And, you know, someone's paying insurance and mortgage on it. And, you know, it's just a different time right now. So that's what we're dealing with. So it's kind of weird. I've seen some for almost 6 months where sellers wanted to stay in there for free. I was like, dang, that's pretty ballsy. So I was really surprised by that. Yeah, it really needs to be rent. And and Stephanie is right. Like, when you start getting into some of those, depending on the loan, the buyers have to live in that property and the lenders will check. Otherwise it's mortgage fraud, and they have to live in that property. They have to have their mail there, the utilities. So like, you don't want them not moving in, and it can be that's a really bad pickle. So yeah, you don't want rent and tenants and other things happening when it's not supposed to be. So yeah, that's not good. A year for free that's not good. And I don't know if conventional has any stipulations on, they may have to move into the property within 3 months, I think is their requirement. So if the lender found out, there could be mortgage fraud. So, and since the housing bubble, financing, they don't mess around anymore. So it is, you got to be very careful. So truly, if things are going on, people are wanting to do certain things, you've got to advise your buyers the laws. Same thing with people wanting to do the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs. It's, you know, checking the HOA rules and ensuring that the houses or properties are able to do that. So yeah. Good discussions. Anytime I see when there's a tenant in there, I went and viewed a property up in Cave Creek over the weekend. There was a tenant in there and I had to reach out and find out how long the lease was for. And they weren't in a lease. They could get out within 30 days. So, you know, you always try and find out the terms and what's going on for your clients. That way your clients know. But yeah, you guys have other questions? Anytime you're wondering what you guys can or can't do, you can reach out to me or Lisa. So, you know, it also depends on your client and what your client's able to do. And I mean, I have a buyer right now, he's pre-qualified and he's pre-qualified at 285. And unfortunately, he can't do anything. So, you know, there isn't anything for him to buy, and, you know, we're just kind of stuck. So, it's unfortunate. So, and the multiple offers, he wouldn't win on anything. So it's just sad. But, you know, what can you do? The lease to own stuff is something I won't touch. I do not recommend to anybody. So I've had some agents ask me about that, and that favors the homeowner, the landlord completely. Not a good thing at all. So I've seen those starting to come back because they're taking advantage of people that have really poor credit or are desperate. And one of my property management friends were telling me too that they have tenants walking out of leases and just walking away from their deposits because of the rents are getting so high. So kind of interesting to see how that's going to pan out too with the rents. So, but everyone, you guys are all quiet today. Diana's on. You guys have questions? Really short-term rentals, it's the HOA. And so legally, their lender's supposed to know if they're buying it as a rental property, then they're supposed to be getting a loan as an investor. Unless they buy it as a primary and they live in it for a year or so, and then they move out, then they can rent it. But yeah, so, but short-term rentals, that's all mandated by the HOA. And if it's not HOA, it could be city. The city could come up with some of their own rules. So maybe check city sites too. Like if you have some of the county islands, it could come up with, and this is just in general too, is like noise, public complaint. Yeah. You got a puppy? Oh, I want to see the puppy. Oh, we all want to see the puppy. I know, squirrel. Oh, look at him. This a baby.
Say hi. You
Oh,
want to
he's
be
so
quiet
cute.
now?
He's so cute. How old?
He is 10 and a half weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Say hi. Okay.
We all have dogs, I think. I don't know if John does, but I know Stephanie's got two.
Got two of them, actually. Standard
Diana's gonna
poodle
be
and a
having,
chihuahua.
oh,
Yeah,
Diana's gonna be having like babies.
I know. I got 4, and hopefully like I said, the white labs, if anybody's interested down the line, she should be going in heat in the next couple months. So
Oh,
yeah,
I'm looking for a cat, by the way.
oh my gosh.
I have 2 cats too, but
Yeah, so the Airbnb stuff, the state they're gonna fight. And the state always fights with the HOAs. Because our state is such, it's like Florida, our state is such a huge, our money making is the travel industry. I mean, Airbnbs are just, I think they're just going to keep sticking around, but there needs to be some rules in place because they got a little crazy, and that's the issue.
Yeah,
Because
sorry. I have a friend who is looking for some Airbnb properties out here, and he's having me kind of look in the Scottsdale area, and he has one in Florida now. Friend from Houston from high school, actually. And yeah, he's gonna live in it for like a year or so and make it his primary out here and then leave and go back.
He can live in it, and then when he's gone, like get his valuables, put them in a safe, and then rent his place out for like a week while
That's
he's
exactly what
gone.
he's gonna do. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I
then
think,
that's
I mean,
fine.
he'll forward some mail and stuff here.
Yeah,
But he has family that can move around to like live
Yeah.
in the property until it meets the requirement, and
Yeah.
then lock it up and leave. All right, you have a bathroom? All right.
yeah.
Go on.
But I think, so some of the listing agents, like as Scottsdale is a big one, and so is Tempe. You'll see the listing agents will list in the private remarks. Like I looked at some over the weekend. HOA is okay with, or 30-day short-term rental. So you can reach out to the listing agent and you can say, hey, what are the rentals like? How short-term? What are the terms? Can it be under 30 days? Can it be over 30? And ask them. You can contact the HOAs directly too and ask. That's what a lot of people are looking for. And especially with COVID happening, that's why there's such a turnover with the motel hotels. So, and those are turning into condos. So, yeah. They just don't want to see like a big party happening. And the neighbors don't, I get it. I wouldn't either. But it's a big moneymaker. There was a house I had an investor looking at in Scottsdale during COVID. So they weren't even, I know we're like totally off topic, but during COVID, the first year of COVID, that house made 50,000 in 1 year. And they weren't really marketing it. So. Mhm.
Well, I know that Scottsdale also has, I know for a fact the city of Scottsdale has VRBO rules.
Mhm.
So, and then I know that one thing too, if you do have people looking to buy one, just because the HOA allows them now, they can change those rules at any time. So I would make
Correct.
sure your clients understand that, because anytime they could just decide it's not going to be allowed,
Yeah.
and then they can't do it anymore, and they're stuck with this property that they can't use the way they intended.
Yeah.
Just so they don't come back and get mad at you
Yeah.
for not telling them.
Terry says Awatuki is all over the place for short terms, like approving them or not. They don't have a lot of condos though. They have houses.
No, yeah, from what I understand, they are, because there's so many different pockets in Awatuki, and some are HOA, some are not, some are Phoenix, City of Phoenix HOA. There's so many different governing agencies in Awatuki that it's tough to be able to advise anyone as far as short-term rentals there, at least from my experience with trying to find it for somebody who was looking for that recently. It's just tough to find anybody that can say for sure. And it's like, well, I don't know, is it on this street or that street? If it's on that street, you can. If it's on this street, you can't. If it's over in this pocket, you can. If it's over there, you can't. So it's weird because there's so many different little communities within Awatuki as a whole. So that's been my experience, AKA nightmare.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is too, is depending on if it's the investors purchasing, if too many investors purchase the condos, townhomes, then they turn the communities unwarrantable. So that's the other issue. So just a heads up. There's a couple communities in Old Town Scottsdale that you can only pay cash for them. They're so upside down. Can't
I have
even
to
use.
duck out, but thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Yeah.
all of this. It's been really great. I'm sorry I have to take off for
You're
an
good.
appointment, but I appreciate you so much.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. You too. Bye.
Nothing too crazy on negotiation tactics, but these are here and they're good for you guys. It's just there's only so much you guys can do depending on your client. and, you know, you do the best you can with your client. If they want to write an offer, you write the best offer you can and you try, and then you go and find another property for them and just prepare them to keep looking, you know. So that's all you can do. It's nothing against you personally or them. It's just we don't have a lot of inventory, and there's a lot of buyers out, and they're competing against investors still, and people with money, and just hang in there. So, okay. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay. Well, I will stop sharing and stop recording, but if you guys have anything else or need anything else, you know, reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're here, and I'll put the recording in SharePoint, and go get under contract.
Thanks, Mara.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mara.
Bye.